Happy Engineer, you are going to be glad you came back today. I am so excited for this chat. Dave, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for making time, man. This is going to be awesome.
My pleasure, Zach. Thanks for having me, man.
You will be the first guest ever to start our conversation about you and your journey before you were born. So where do we begin? You have so much in your journey to share, wisdom and experiences. And you said, let's start 2 months before you even came to the planet in full form. So Dave, what happened? What's going on 2 months before your birthday?
Well, my biological father, he was a pilot in Korea, and we don't know exactly what happened to him. All we know is he hurt his head. And so to save his life, Zach, they put a plate in his head. That's the technology they had in 1954, right? And it was extremely painful, apparently very excruciating. He used to tell mom all the time, didn't know how much longer he could take it. So literally 2 months before I'm born, he turns to mom and says, I'm going to the grocery store. We never saw or heard from him again. So we assumed he took his own life. And so when I was born to a single mom. I had 2 stepbrothers. And so we were all living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Hollywood, California. So there were my 2 stepbrothers, myself, a cousin, my mother, and my grandmother. So there were 6 mouths to feed, and mom was the only one that was pulling in any dough. Mom came from that era, man. She's a badass, right? She went through the Great Depression. During World War II, she was just like all the other women in the U.S., doing everything they could to save the world. Mom just happened to be Rosie the Riveter. So she was up on the wing of that airplane, driving those rivets in with McDonnell Douglas, right? Making airplanes. So she wasn't afraid of hard work. Because back in those days, you had to do everything, right? You had to grow your own food, sew your own clothes. Life was different. Life was much harder. And so when I was 5 years old, she couldn't feed me. And so she did a very loving thing. She went to her oldest sister, Pat, who was married to Bob Albin. And she said, will you guys adopt David? And they said yes.
Wow.
And so they took me from Hollywood, California to Long Beach, California. Bob Albin, military, highly decorated, full-time Army, full-time National Guard, worked in the Pentagon. So we had a nice house. We had money. We had things. We went camping. I mean, it was a beautiful life when I got there. When I was 11 years old, 6 years after they adopted me, on the first day of summer, 1964, I'm in the TV room. Mom comes and gets me. It's 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30, whatever. She brings me in the kitchen, sets me down, and she goes, David, we need to tell you something. She puts her hand on my arm, never forget the look in her eyes. And she said, David, what we need to tell you is we're not your parents.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right. Well, what the hell does that mean? What do you mean you're not my parents? Of course you're my parents, right? You can't process that at 11 years old. It's like taking somebody outside and saying, yeah, sky's not, see the sky? Well, I know it looks blue, but it's not blue. Yeah, well.
That's not blue.
It looks pretty blue to me. So she went on to tell me that, your Aunt Dean? Yeah. She goes, that's your biological mother. She gave birth to you. And I'm like, I don't even like her, right? And the reason I didn't like her is because when she was around me, she wanted to be around me. She wanted to sit next to me, hold me, hug me, kiss me. Well, duh. I was her son.
Yeah.
And she only had so much time around me. So, she took advantage of it. And again, it was never inappropriate. It was just that, she was just like here,
just being a mom.
Right? Yeah, being a mom.
You said the adoption happened at age 5. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you have any, real memories or vivid memories at all before that time? Or it's kind of pieced back together from stories from the
It's just kind
adults?
of like, it was kind of like I'm in Long Beach, I'm in Hollywood. I'm in Hollywood, I'm in Long Beach. It was all mixed together.
Yeah.
My cousin went to Hollywood High School, so she knew some actors and actresses. Her mother, my Aunt Jo, was a very up-and-coming Hollywood star. She played in The Grapes of Wrath.
Oh, wow.
She was in some pretty decent movies. Full-blown alcoholic. Ended up dying years later of cirrhosis of the liver in the same hospital where I was born, Queen of Angels. There was a lot of alcoholism in my family.
So here you are 11, and you get told the sky is not actually blue.
Right.
And where does that lead your life? What happens?
Well, a couple of weeks after they told me this, they both started drinking. They swore off drinking when they adopted me at age 5. So when that happened, things changed radically. My life just went boom, and talk about a hard turn. Pat was kind of a fun, laughing drunk, right? She'd drink, pass out, but she was kind of a friendly drunk, right? Bob, no, not so much. He was mean. He was not a good human when he was drinking. And so I had to start dealing with that at a very, very young age. Well, one day they went to the grocery store. Back in the 60s, you could do that. You leave your kids home. You didn't care, right? Call the neighbor across the street. Hey, Joanne, we're going to the store, Bob and I. If David needs anything, can he come knock on your door? Yeah, sure, of course.
No problem.
Tell him to come over now. I'll fix him a fried bologna sandwich. Right? So they left. Well, I knew where the booze was, and I had it planned out. I wanted to know what this stuff is. I don't know what's going on, Zach. I just know they're drinking this stuff, and they're acting out. I don't know what it is. And so when they left, man, I went and got a coffee cup, filled it up about halfway, and boom, down it went. I never had a chance. I totally believe I was an alcoholic right on the spot. I started acting out. I started thinking about it because it makes you feel like Superman, right? Mm-hmm. It's like rocket fuel in your body. And so I chased it with everything I had from that moment. And of course, it just gets worse, right? You start hanging around the wrong people. Next thing you know, you get introduced to drugs. So by the time I'm a junior in high school, they brought me in the principal's office shortly after the school started in my junior year and said, Albin, out, you're done. So they expelled me. And I didn't care. I didn't care because it wasn't like I go, oh gosh, I'm not going to be able to make a living. No, I was already an entrepreneur at a young age. Mom used to grow beautiful flowers in the backyard. She knew how to cut them. She would actually arrange them in beautiful colors, and she would cut the flower at an angle, not at the bottom, at an angle. And that opened up the surface area for water, right? And then she would bundle them up for me and tie them up so I could sell them in bouquets. And then she'd put them in a bucket and she'd pour about this much 7-Up in the bottom.
Interesting.
And it was the sugar, I guess, the caramelization. My flowers would outlast the local florist 3-1. And I'm out selling them on the street corner.
Your first marketing pitch, Dave. My flowers will outlast
right?
the grocer 3-1.
Here's the guy that would pull up, and it was always the men. The women never negotiated. The men would say, hey, because I'm selling them for $1. He'd say, I'll give you $1.50 for 2. And I'd go, no, thank you. Well, what do you mean? Well, why? Why should I do that? The next guy that pulls up will give me $1. Why should I sell it to you, right? And they'd give me $2. They liked it. Like, hey, this kid's pretty sharp, right?
Yeah.
I also had a paper route. That's a 7-day job, man. You got to pick up your papers every day, load them on your bike, go deliver them, collect, do all of it. You had to do everything.
How'd you manage to keep the jobs and the business going with the alcohol and the drugs and the lifestyle and keep that in balance?
That's a really good question. Sometimes I have no idea. Somehow I just seem to manage.
Wow.
Because that wasn't it either, because I grew across the street from a golf course. And here's what I learned about golfers at a young age. They suck, right? And so what I would do is I'd get on my Stingray bicycle, man, and I'd ride the perimeter, Eric. And so it was like, guess what I found everywhere? They were everywhere, all over the place. Little white things, golf balls. Yeah. I'd take them home and I'd clean them up, Zach, and I'd go back to the golf course, and the balls they came in, they'd throw them out in the trash cans, right? The new balls. So I would just, after I cleaned them up, I just put them in the box, and I'd go back in the parking lot and sew them back, right? So yeah, I was all doing this at a young age. At a very young age, here was my belief system. There's money out there. Go get it. So at 11, 12 years old, that's a pretty empowering thing. So again, when I got kicked out of high school, I didn't care.
Who cares?
I went and got a job that day.
Yeah. Thank you. Now I don't have to come here.
No, I don't have to come here. I can go get a job in a short amount of time. I went out and bought a new Mach 1 Mustang. I went and I got my own apartment. Downtown Belmont Shore, California, really beautiful, overlooked the bay. I mean, holy mackerel. And I'm what, 17? Okay. So that's kind of how my life went. Now, I needed a good job because my drug addiction was starting to escalate, right? And then I'll just kind of move this forward. I got married to my childhood sweetheart. That lasted a couple of weeks. I married another woman that I love dearly who got me out of California. She got me to the East Coast, saved my life there. Let's just say there were some drug dealers in Southern California that wanted to get their hands around my neck. And if you're listening, well, statute of limitations, they probably aren't still alive anyway, right? So, and then after I got divorced from wife number 2, I met wife number 3. She was a bartender. She had 3 kids, and I married her because I thought, wow, maybe these kids will help turn my life around.
Calm me down.
Calm me down. Yeah, good, better word. Calm me down. And it did for about 3 weeks, and then boom, it all comes back, right? And so on June 8th, 1988, I woke up that morning, and that was the day for me, man. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm in massive physical pain and emotional pain. because I'm dealing with heroin, cocaine, alcohol, cigarettes. I'm not eating right. I'm dehydrated. I mean, I'm a plane wreck. I'm a
Wow.
plane crash, a car wreck, and a train wreck all wrapped into one. And so when I woke up that morning, I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm out. And the only
Okay.
thought I had in that moment was take your life.
Yeah.
And so I loaded my pistol and I'm moving forward with that. The pain's that bad. Then it dawns on me. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait a minute. Time out. If you pull that trigger, yeah, maybe you think your problem's over, but those 3 kids upstairs and that family that you love, you're going to destroy them.
Yeah.
And we learn the hard way. Unfortunately, sometimes people take their life and what they do is they kill everybody around it, right? And so it's that permanent answer to a temporary
Amazing
problem.
that thought popped in at all.
It did.
I mean, what a miracle for you.
It was a thought of compassion. In fact, I had a conversation with one of Tony's psychiatrists that is in his environment. And he said, dude, that was a moment of compassion. That saved your ass. It really did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, well, what are you going to do? Right. Well, I'm going to call this organization called Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, you know what's interesting about that, Zach? I didn't even know who the hell AA was. I'd never been to a meeting. I didn't know anybody in AA. Where'd that come from?
Wait, did somebody tell you to call them, or you just had that thought pop in?
Nope. Thought came in my head.
Wow.
I dialed 411, asked for Alcoholics Anonymous. I got a hold of Intergroup, and the next thing I know, I'm talking to this amazing woman on the phone that I've affectionately over the years nicknamed her Madge. And the reason I nicknamed her Madge is because she talks like this, right? She's probably smoking 2 packs of Pall Mall non-filters a day. She was a badass, man. She's the gatekeeper. It's her job to interview you. And if she thinks you're a good risk, she'll call one of the guys in AA to come pick you up and take you to a meeting. And she did. Wow. She saved my life. So I got in the car with Lauren. Lauren took me to an AA meeting, an all men's group in Fairfax, Virginia. And I went to 4 meetings in one day at 12:30, 4:30, 6:30, and 8:30. And when I went out the door, they gave me one of these. It's a medallion. It said 24 hours. On the back, it said, to thy own self be true. And so they gave me one at 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 1 year. I picked one up this year for 35 years.
35 years. Okay, hold on.
35 years.
Let's pause and just celebrate that. I want to acknowledge you, Dave. I mean, already an incredible life story, but 35 years sober after that start. Yeah. That is so cool.
Talk about a blessing. And that's what it does, right? So what happened was when I was first getting sober early on, I had insomnia. So I was up late at night all the time. My sleep patterns were all over the place. And I'm up late one night. There he is, 1988, a young, enthusiastic Tony Robbins. Here he comes, man. Through Gunthy Ranker.
Infomercials back in the day. Come on.
He was the infomercial king, right?
That's right.
He was selling Personal Power, a 30-day program through Gunthy Ranker. And you know what, Zach, I couldn't stand him. I did not like the guy. I thought he was pompous. I thought he was a big mouth. He was an ass. He's all motivated, and I'm like, and I'm not. I'm miserable, right? But he said 2 things that got me. I mean, got me good. The first thing he said was, we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. And I'm like, holy crap, is he talking directly to me? Because that's all I did with drugs and alcohol. I was either trying to get away from pain or I was trying to chase some pleasure. So that when he said that, it resonated. And then what really got me, he said, let me tell you how we make decisions as human beings. When we make a decision, it's based on one of 2 things, inspiration or desperation.
Yes.
I
love that line.
He's talking to me, right?
I love that
because I'm pretty desperate.
So Dave, let me get curious with you. Here you're just about to embark on the Tony Robbins chapter of life, and I'm so excited to hear that. But you made a comment earlier about a belief that got installed in you early because of the upbringing, because of the experiences you had. There's money out there, go get it. I'm curious, what other beliefs, if we go to like that moment right around the AA and Tony time, like if I paused your story there and said, what was the conditioning, the belief system that you were operating in at that time? What else do you remember? What is the way you saw the world? What beliefs did you hold prior to getting introduced to Tony Robbins?
Well, I had been exposed to a bunch of men in AA that loved me unconditionally. So I knew there was something going on with that. I mean, I had a bunch of men, they just loved me, man, until I could love myself. In fact, the second day, on day two of my career in Alcoholics Anonymous, I woke up that morning and I was in horrible shape. The withdrawals were insane.
Yeah.
Right? Alcohol, cocaine, and heroin at the same time, not a fun place to be.
No.
And so my phone rang at like 8:30 in the morning. And when I answered the phone, it was John. And John goes, "Hey, Dave, good morning. It's John from AA. How you doing this morning?" And I'm like, "How do you think I'm doing? I want to kill somebody, dude. And I might start with you for calling me at 8:30. He's like, yeah. He goes, "I hear you. Hey, listen, man, we talked last night. I live right around the corner from you. I know exactly where you live. Let me come pick you up. Let me take you to breakfast, and let's go to a meeting today." What?
Wow.
I'm threatening this guy, and I'm serious. I'm dangerous at that moment of my life. John's like, "I got your back, man." And so that's what I learned in AA. That's how my belief system started changing, and I was being influenced by how AA worked, right? Because if you look at AA, you got the 12 steps that you put your life back together. You got the 12 traditions that helps you operate within the group. And then in the middle, you got the preamble. And here's what the preamble says. It says, "When anyone anywhere reaches out, I want the hand of AA to be there. And for that, I'm responsible." Whoa. Okay. I'll take that creed. I'll take that oath. And so I was locked in. I was a gatekeeper, man, and I was good at it. Because I knew when that guy came through that door, that man or woman, well, mostly men because it was an all men's group, but I knew their life was on the line.
Yeah.
This isn't the Elks Lodge. This isn't the Qantas Club here. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. And everybody that walks through that door every day, we have a daily reprieve based on the condition, of us, how we handle things spiritually. And so, I was watching guys die, no doubt about it. So I took that really, really seriously.
Wow.
So what happened is that all of a sudden here's AA and now here's the personal development industry, and it collided in my life at the same time, which is very rare. That doesn't normally happen, right? So I had a heck of an advantage.
Yeah.
Because again, once I got to the point where I bought that program, and
you did buy a copy of Personal Power.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He sent it to me and I bought it. And in fact, it came on little white things called cassette tapes, right? So,
oh boy.
Yeah. And I did it. I went through it and I did exactly what Tony told me to do. And it worked. Well, what I did was I ended up loaning it to a buddy of mine in AA, my buddy, Dan the Butcher, who I just lost Dan 2 weeks ago. And so he went through it too. Well, 7 years later in 1995, Dan calls me on the phone and said, "Hey, dude, did you know that Tony Robbins is coming to town?" I'm like, "No, I had no idea." And he's like, "Oh, come on. You got to go with me. You got me into this. You're going with me." I'm like, "All right, I'll go."
I'm in. Let's do it.
Right? Yeah. So he goes, "Let me call you back." Calls me back like an hour later and he goes, "Done. Here's what they told us to do. Drink a lot of water. You must stay hydrated. Bring snacks. You're going to spend a lot of time in the room." I'm laughing, right? Spend a lot of time in the room. Yep. Are you kidding me? What an understatement. And then he said, "Hey, and be ready to play full out and bring a good attitude." I was like, "Dan, how much did a ticket cost?" He said, $695 in 1995. I'm like, "Holy crap." Because don't worry, you can pay me back. I'll pay you back. But $695? What's that worth today? And as he's getting ready to get off the phone, he goes, "Oh, wait, before you go, I need to tell you something. I almost left out the most important part. We're going to be doing a fire walk."
You what?
I'm thinking, no, we're not. Hell no. Maybe you are. But
you are, not me.
But I don't know what a fire walk is, but I'm saying no to it. So it comes back to your question, right? What was my mindset back in those days? Fear. Fear was controlling everything I did. And it influenced everything I did, every single decision. So what did fear mean to me in that moment? Forget everything and run.
Oof.
That was it. That's how I lived my life. So, we get to the event. Big day comes. We get there. Tony takes the stage at 2:00 in the afternoon. Next thing I know, it's after midnight. Been in a room for 10 hours with Tony Robbins. You got to be kidding me, right? Bring snacks, right?
Yeah.
You'll starve to death. And all of a sudden, Tony goes, "Take your shoes off." And I'm like, "Oh, no. No, pal. You're not tricking me. I see where you're going with that. I'm not taking my shoes off." Well, I got a problem. My problem is I'm in a room with 3,500 people, and guess what they're doing?
Everyone else is taking the shoes off.
I'm like, "No, don't go towards the light. You're falling for it, people." And so now my dilemma is, what am I going to do? Not take my shoes off and walk out there and let 3,500 people are going to see me with my shoes on? No, I'm not going to live with that. So I'm like, just calm down. relax, take your shoes off. And when you get out there, just go hide in the back. No one is going to know, period. End of story. Lose Dan on your way out there, which I did. My buddy, I ditched him. And I got out there, and of course, it's worse. When he gets you going out there, you probably know this. He gets everybody clapping and chanting.
Yes.
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 Yes. And then you get out there, and he's got African drummers. Dun, 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 dun.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, what a dog and pony show. You got to be kidding me. And so, as you know, when you get out there, there's a giant fire. They take you out in this big parking lot. How do you firewalk 3,500 people logistically, right? Got a big fire over there. That big pit is probably 35 feet wide, 70 feet long. Been burning all day. They've thrown 20 cords of wood on it. And it burns. And at the end of the evening, it renders. So you got this big, giant, beautiful pile of blue coals. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
So how do you set up the firewalk? Well, you take a wheelbarrow over to the pit. You load the coals in a wheelbarrow. You bring a wheelbarrow in between two lanes of sod, of grass. It's called a fire lane, 3 feet wide, 18 feet long. Then they just take a flathead shovel and they sprinkle those coals on top of that grass on that fire lane, and that's what you walk on. Well, I'm hiding in the back because I'm not doing this.
No chance.
Well, here's what Tony knows. Tony brought firewalking into his events because he knew that it was one of the most life-changing experiences on earth.
Yep.
He knows it. It's been around 1,000 years. Go look it up. Cultures all around the world have been using it forever. The Tahitians, the people of India, the Polynesians, the Hawaiians, the Native American Indians, the Portuguese, the Spaniards. Hell, the Indo-Europeans used it years ago. Before the men went into battle, they always did a firewalk. So Tony knows it's going to cause a paradigm shift, and it's a life-changing experience. Yeah. He also knows there's people like me that are trying to get out of it. So what's he do? He trains people to come find you. I'm back there thinking I got it all figured out, right? Not so much.
Oh, man.
Here he comes. He finds me. He makes eye contact with me, and he won't take his eyes off me. I'm pretty sure they train him to do that, right? And so he gets about maybe 20 feet from me, and he's looking at me really funny, right? Like a dog that hears a funny noise. And so he says, "Hey, man, are you okay?" And when we're not okay, what do we say? We lie, right?
Yeah, I'm
fine. I'm good. All good here.
Exactly.
Nothing to see. Move along, right?
Yeah, talk to
and
someone
he
else.
immediately goes, "Hey, man, are you going to walk tonight?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." I'm thinking,
way.
why the hell do you think I'm hiding in the back, dude? No, I'm not walking tonight. And I said it with quite a bit of authority, right? Wasn't really a nice tone, if you will. And he's like, "Hey, man, that's cool. No problem. Listen, we don't want you to do anything you don't want to do." And I went, "Wow, okay. I like this guy. He's going to get me out of here." No, he's not. He's tricking me. Because the next question he asked me, total stranger, don't know who this guy is today. Without him, I'm not here, Zach.
Wow.
We're not on this podcast right now. I would have never changed tens of thousands of people's lives without this guy. But the question he asked me, he goes, "Wouldn't you at least like to watch?" And I'm thinking, well, okay, yeah, we'll do that. Let's go watch these people burn their feet off. It'll be entertaining, if nothing else. And he says, "Well, listen, man, you can't see anything from way back here. You're going to have to get in line."
Oh, he is good.
Oh, he was good. In his defense, he's telling me the truth because I can't see anything.
Yeah.
I can hear it. I can see the big fire over there burning. I can hear them chanting and clapping. I can hear the drums going off. They're already firewalking. They're screaming and yelling with exhilaration and celebrating in the celebration. And after the firewalk, I mean, it's insane what's going on, right? So I just got in line and just kind of walking along, kind of cruising. And all of a sudden, this guy comes up to me. Completely different guy. Comes up, whispers in my ear and says, "He knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go." And pew, this guy just disappeared into the night, right? And I'm like, what? Who was that? What does that mean? He knows when you're ready. So, and then he was gone. And so now I'm kind of walking along, and all of a sudden I get to a point. Still can't see in front of me. Got 1,000 people in front of me, but I can see at an angle. And they're doing it, man. Zach, they are walking on fire. Every race, every creed, every color, they're doing it. And my brain is going, why? Why are you doing this? What's wrong with you? Why would you do this? Metaphorically, help me out here. I don't understand this at all. Yeah. But I'm mesmerized. I can't take my eyes off. It's kind of like you drive by a car wreck and you say, "Oh, I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to look at it." And of course, we stare at it, right? So now I'm mesmerized and I'm kind of walking along. And boom. Next thing I know, guess where I am?
Front of the line.
I'm at the front of the line. And so now I'm staring at that fire lane, right? It's 3 feet wide, 18 feet long. The coals are glowing bright red. There's no doubt the coals are hot. The wheelbarrow's there too, and you can feel the heat coming off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm losing it. My chest, my heart's pumping. It's going to jump out of my chest any second. I'm scared to death, staring into the abyss. Every fear, everything that ever happened in my life had shown up right there in that moment. There's a trainer standing right there. And all of a sudden the trainer goes, eyes up. Oh, that's right. Keep your eyes up. Okay. Yeah, that's right. I was in a room with Tony for 10 hours. What did he teach me to do? Keep my eyes up. Don't stare at what I fear. Look to the celebration end. That's where the reward is. And all of a sudden the trainer goes, squeeze your fist and say yes. And I went, yes. And he went, stronger. And I went, yes. Well, he knew. He could tell. I'm not in a peak state, and he knew it. So what did he do? He gets in my face and screams at me, stronger! I threw my hands in the air and screamed as loud as I could. And the trainer goes, go, go, go. Boom. I took off. Remember the guy? He knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. I went. Well, they staged 2 people at the end of the fire lane to stop you and catch you. Hell, I'd have walked all the way to Albuquerque.
Yeah, exactly. I remember
right?
that.
I was moving. And here's the first thing I learned about firewalking, by the way. When you take the first step, you'll take the second, third, fourth, and fifth. I promise you.
That's right.
And so now they're like, stop, wipe your feet and celebrate. The 2 guys that catch you, right? And I'm wiping my feet, starting to celebrate, and all of a sudden it dawns on me. I've burnt myself really bad. And I look at my foot, and it's dirty, filthy dirty. But there's no burns.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my other foot. I look at it. Yeah, same thing. Filthy dirty, no burns. So I just walked on coals that were 1,000 degrees, and I have no clue how I did it.
Yes.
I did it, right? I'm successful. We all do something like that once in a while, right? We do something really cool. We don't really know how we did it, but we did it, and we take credit for it, right? Like, that's right. That's this
after
guy.
the fact. Look at me. I'm a firewalker. Hi, Zach, firewalker.
I've been doing this my whole life.
Dave,
what are you talking about? High five. And of course, when you're down there in the celebration end, you're with a couple thousand people who are all feeling the same thing. Exhilaration. Because your self-confidence, your self-belief, and your self-worth all raises together at the same time. You're experiencing it collectively. Well, here's where it got really interesting for me, was the next day. This is a 4-day event. That was day 1, the night thereof. Now we're in day 2. So we're all standing in the foyer getting ready to go into the venue that morning. And Zach, I've never seen anything like it in my life. It was the most beautiful thing I think I've ever witnessed in my entire life. I was sitting there watching people connect unlike anything I'd ever seen or witnessed. People were hugging. And I mean, they're hugging, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're laughing. They're crying. They're talking about their fears. They're talking about their firewalk. I mean, it was such a beautiful thing, not only to witness, but to be part of, right? Because I'm saying, hold on. Did we drink the Kool-Aid last night? You better believe we did, right? Well, later in the event, I met one of Tony's trainers, a guy by the name of Ted Macy. Super, super sweet guy. Him and his wife, Mary, were in the environment for quite some time. So I'm just talking to Ted, and I said, so you get to come do this on a regular basis, don't you? He goes, yeah, every single one of them. And I go, man, that must be awesome to be in this environment, to be around this intensity, right? He says, oh, yeah, of course it is. He goes, as a matter of fact, you see all those people standing over there with the black shirts and the pink writing on the back? I'm like, yeah. He goes, dude, they're volunteers. They're just like you. And if you want to come do this, you want to come be part of it, here's all you got to do. Go home, call Robbins Research, have them send you a volunteer crew application. Fill it out, send it back. Who knows? We'll see what happens. I did. And 9 weeks after I sent that bad boy back, I got a letter in the mail and it said, Dave Albin, congratulations. You've been selected to crew with the Anthony Robbins companies.
Unreal.
Well, color my ass happy. There I was. Now, when you fill out the form, you're giving them a lot of information, right? They knew I was military. They knew I had a security background. So they immediately wanted to put me on the security detail, helping take care of Tony's celebrities, which we could do a whole nother podcast on just that. And then because I lived on a farm, I knew how to split wood. I knew how to use a hatchet. I know what kindling is, right? So they put me on the fire building team, which is exactly where I wanted to go. So I crewed like 5 or 6 times maybe. And you got to pay your own way, right? You got to
Sure.
pay your airfare,
Yep.
your hotel, your food, all of it. Well, my wife is going, whoa, time out. Hold on a second. You're spending a couple $1,000 every time you're going. Who the hell is this Tony Robbins guy? Because at that point, she doesn't even know who he really is. I mean, she does, but she doesn't,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so I went into one of the events and they offered me a subcontracting position to be on the security team and to be the assistant fire captain. So now they're going to pay my way. They're going to pay for my food, all my expenses, and they're going to pay me a little salary. Well, they did another smart thing. They gave me a ticket and I gave it to my wife and I took her and she went. And when she graduated on day 4, we took a walk on the beach to anchor it in that night. And she goes, okay, I get it. I drank the Kool-Aid. Yep. You want to run with this guy? Go. I love it.
So amazing. So I had this experience in 2019 and it's amazing. See, what year was it you walked on fire the first time? You said it was
95.
95. So 2019, here we are 24 years later. I can't even imagine the fact that that same experience was like as impactful then as it was for me. Like Tony just delivers every single time. So I'm an engineer, you know that.
Right.
Dave, when I'm walking out to the fire that first night, shoes off, every possible, calculus I can come up with is going on in my head as to why this isn't real. Like the coals are not actually as hot as they say they are. No, there must be something else going on.
There's a trick.
There's a trick here. Yeah, like I'm figuring it out, right? All the IQ that I've built my life around, this ivory tower of intelligence that has served me so well, and I'm trying to figure this out. And there's no figuring it out, man. It's exactly what she said. I remember that moment so vividly. The person who's, they got their hand on their shoulder and they're having you chant. They tell you when you're ready and go. And you're not joking. When you take that first step, like it is just pure energy, go, walk. There's no alternative. And it's like the most powerful 8 steps you ever took in your whole life, And
yeah, absolutely.
It changed me. We wouldn't be sitting here today, not only because of your firewalk. I wouldn't be interviewing you today if it weren't for my firewalk. Yeah, there's no question that was a really important catalyst to the success of my coaching now and the business that I run. So just thanks for sharing that. And so now here you are, subcontracting, you're getting paid, your wife's on board, you're fully in. And 19 plus years of time and service with firewalking and Tony Robbins. And how many tens or hundreds of thousands of people have you served in this way?
I don't know.
Can't even count.
Well, I'm very reluctant to say somewhere around 500,000 because people are going to, that's not true. There's no way. I just say tens of thousands. And let me give you an example. In 2003, I took over all of Tony's firewalks, right? That's when he said, hey, Albie, I want you to become the captain. You'll take over all the firewalks. I know you homeschool your kids, so we'll take them on the road with us. Bring your family. So in 2003, the very first event that I did for Tony as his fire captain, my kids got to go to Sydney, Australia, right? So that's how we started off. 2005, so cool. We went to London. We set the world record. We firewalked 12,300 people in one firewalk, right? So when I say tens of thousands, I'm talking tens of thousands.
No question. Yeah.
Now, I say world record, I want to be perfectly clear about something. Guinness was not there, Zach. But I say world record because it was. No one's ever firewalked 12,000 people on this planet, unless you're at another Tony Robbins seminar at 9,000 or 10,000, right?
Yeah.
So we set the world record in 2005, and then in 2014, I'm driving down the road and my phone rings and it's Google. Hi, Google, what can I do for you? Well, you're the Dave Albin does the firewalks, Tony Robbins? Yes. What can I do for you? Well, if you're not under any contractual obligation or non-compete, we'd like to talk to you about hiring you. I'm like, well, homeboy's a free agent. What you got? And so they originally wanted to talk about a firewalk. They had 148 executives that were graduating from a 9-month curriculum.
Okay.
And they wanted to, do the graduation, have lunch, and then anchor it in with the experience. And then after the experience, they could have some beer and wine. They wanted to do it in the middle of the day. And I said, I won't do it in the middle of the day. It's a safety issue. Ain't going to happen. We either do it at night or we're not doing the firewalk. However, I could do a glass walk. They're like a glass walk. What's that? You mean like walking on broken glass? I go, yep. They're like, ooh, tell us about that. So yeah, I ended up doing 2 glass walks for Google. But that's when the light bulb went off. I had one of the executives pulled me aside and they said, hey, Dave, look, you might want to think about starting your own company. Because I'll tell you right now, there's a huge marketplace for corporate team building, paradigm shift experiences at this level. People are tired of playing golf and scavenger hunts and playing blackjack and all that, right? Because most CEOs and entrepreneurs and executives know that what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you. It's not going to happen.
That's right.
And so I've seen it, right? You're right there. You know what it did to you. And I saw tens of thousands of people. I look at their face before they walk, and then I look at them when they're done. And I watch it 4 seconds, and they're completely transformed. I've seen it thousands and thousands of times. I'll tell you where you can go see it if you want to see it. Go Google Oprah's Firewalk.
Yeah, that's a great one.
2010, LA Convention Center. Look at her, what she's going through before she walks. Fear, fear, fear. She's losing it. She's trying to find a reason not to do it. And then Tony basically says, Oprah, what's the worst that's going to happen here? Burn your feet off and die? No. I'm not going to let you get hurt. Step up. And she did. And as soon as she finishes, look at what she does.
Yeah.
Watch her celebrate. And then literally she walks and the cameras go